India and the Caribbean are separated by over 15,000 kilometers. So, how is the Indian culture infused in centuries of the Caribbean culture? How did it all begin? Who were the first Indians? And what were they doing so far from home? In this video, we'll explore how deep the Indian influence runs in the Caribbean culture, whether it's spicy cuisine to fun-filled festivals like Diwali. There's a lot to unpack, so we hope you've got your popcorn, because the mystery unravels now. Before we jump straight into the ways Indians have revolutionized the Caribbean culture, please give this video a like and subscribe so we can keep bringing you mind-blowing content. First things first. In the 19th century, the British Empire needed additional workers for Caribbean plantations. The market here was huge, the profit was undeniably attractive, and yet there wasn't enough labor to maintain it. And because slavery was abolished, the British coined a new name for indentured labor. These laborers signed agreements to work for a large, promised sum and the ability to go back to India after the work was done. This was similar to how Indians found themselves in Fiji, Guyana, and many other countries. We actually made 2 videos on Indians in Fiji and Guyana that went viral on YouTube, so if you want to check those out for a deeper dive into this history, check them out at the end of this video. Anyways, the British fought over Indian laborers who stayed for many years because they weren't allowed to go back. And then some of them married local women and started a family and culture that is still depicted in Caribbean's diverse tapestry. Now on to the real question. How did the Indians change the Caribbean culture? Food is often the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about culture, isn't it? And luckily, the Indian Caribbean cuisine is an explosion of flavors. We're talking Indian flatbread, also called roti, stuffed with spicy curry, bursting with chickpeas and tamarind chutney. The culinary adventure is as diverse as the people who call the Caribbean home. When exploring the West Indian cuisine, known for its use of Caribbean ingredients, you'll notice a hint of East Indian flavors. Dishes like chicken tikka masala and flatbread, commonly associated with Indian cuisine, also find their place in Caribbean cooking, particularly in regions such as Jamaica and Trinidad. When the Indians migrated for labor in the 19th century, they brought their culture and cooking styles, mixing them with local foods. This blend created Caribbean Creole cuisine. While Indian and Caribbean dishes might share names, they taste a little different because of the varying ingredients and regional tweaks. But it's not just about food. Indo-Caribbean music is most common in Trinidad. It's also popular in Guyana, Jamaica, Martinique, and Suriname. Their music shows the Bhojpuri heritage of many Indo-Caribbeans. Women's folk songs in particular are representative of Bhojpur's music. The soulful beats of reggae and calypso blend seamlessly with the rhythms of the Indian tabla. Their music is a reflection of their identity, a mix of cultures and a celebration of diversity. Indo-Caribbean musicians uphold traditions by performing tassa at weddings. They also embrace the spirit of the Caribbean by grooving at carnivals. And who can forget the infectious energy of chutney soca? Chutney music incorporates East Indian folk tunes, cinematic tunes, and even religious bhajan, set to a lively calypso or soca rhythm. But music is incomplete without dance. Lately, many people in the Caribbean have been loving Indian dance styles like Kathak and Bharatanatyam. They are also known for being graceful and full of emotion. People just can't seem to get enough of them. These performances bring great joy to the Caribbean dancers. Learning Kathak and Bharatanatyam helps them connect Indian and Caribbean cultures together. When they put on shows and hold workshops, it helps everyone understand and appreciate each other's cultures better. Having Indian dance styles around doesn't just mean more dances to watch, it also sparks new ideas and ways of moving for dancers. It's a big boost for creativity. And it's not just a thing in the Caribbean. This love for Kathak and Bharatanatyam is all over the world. These dances are bringing people together, no matter where they're from. So, when you see Caribbean dancers doing Kathak or Bharatanatyam, remember that it's not just about the dance moves. It's a celebration of how different cultures can come together and make something really beautiful. And as these dances keep growing in the Caribbean, they're adding even more excitement to the whole region. The Indian clothing business is getting bigger in the Caribbean. This started around the mid-2000s when they began having big trade shows and opening fancy stores. People from the Indo-Caribbean community are keeping their culture strong and making sure it's not just for them, but for everyone. Indo-Caribbean fashion, especially how Indo-Trinidadian women wear oढ़ni and hijab, shows a mix of cultural, religious, and worldwide influences. These styles aren't just traditional, they're flexible blends of materials and looks. Trinidad's diverse population and beliefs play a big part in shaping fashion. In olden days, veiling was mainly about showing what group you belonged to, but now women tell stories of how they put together their outfits in creative ways. They mix Indian, Hindu, and Islamic ideas with what's trendy worldwide. Looking closely at how they make these outfits, we see that Caribbean culture isn't simple or stuck. It's diverse and always changing, just like the Indo-Caribbean identity. In the Caribbean, there are lots of different regions. People believe in Christianity, like Catholicism and Protestantism, but there are also other faiths, like Hinduism, Sikhism, and Islam. These were brought by Indian immigrants who came to the Caribbean in the 19th and 20th centuries. These regions have also become part of Caribbean life, making it more diverse and colorful. Some people in the Caribbean also follow Buddhism, even though it's not as common. They're usually small groups who really believe in its teachings about being mindful and compassionate. Besides these religions from outside the region, there are also a number of spiritual practices that have been around in the Caribbean for a long time. They're tied to the history of the Caribbean and how people connect with the land and the sea. These traditions have been passed down from one generation to another and are still important in shaping how Caribbean people see the world and their place in it. Overall, the different regions in the Caribbean show how its history has been shaped by people coming from all over the world. It's like a mix of cultures and beliefs, showing how resilient and adaptable Caribbean folks are in the face of change. Nobody throws a party quite like the Caribbean. Whether it's Eid, Holi, or Diwali, each festival is like a big colorful show of all the different cultures that live there. These celebrations remind us that we're all connected, despite the fact that we speak different languages or follow different religions. The Caribbean people come together to enjoy delicious food, good music, and being with great company. But beyond the festivities, there's a deeper story to be told. For many Indo-Caribbean people, preserving their cultural heritage is a way of honoring their ancestors, the ones who came from India to the Caribbean a long time ago and went through a lot. Like working really hard and facing unfair treatment because of who they were, indentured labor, discrimination, you name it. But they didn't give up. Despite all challenges, they preserved their traditions, values, and identity. And now it's up to their descendants to carry that legacy forward. Each festival is a way of saying thank you to their ancestors and making sure their stories are never forgotten. It's about staying strong and united, celebrating diversity, and keeping the heritage alive for future generations. Indian immigrants have really helped schools and colleges in the Caribbean. They started up a bunch of them. These places have been super important in shaping how education works in the region, but it wasn't just about setting up these places. They got involved in all sorts of educational activities. Indian immigrants jumped into every kind of program, meetings, and seminars. They shared what they knew about all sorts of subjects. These immigrants were experts in all kinds of things, from science to history to art, and when they brought their knowledge to the table, it made learning way more interesting. It wasn't just about reading books anymore, it was like getting a whole new perspective on things. This made education in the Caribbean way better for everyone. When you mix up all these different viewpoints, it opens a door to a whole new world of learning. Students and teachers got to see things from all angles. This made them think harder and have more discussions, and that's how you get smarter. These Indian immigrants didn't just stop at teaching, they also helped with research, figuring out what to teach and even how to teach it better. So their impact went way beyond the classroom. They basically helped design the future of education in the Caribbean. They showed that when different people work together, everyone gets to learn. Traditional Indian medicinal practices such as Ayurveda and yoga have found their place in Caribbean wellness culture, promoting holistic health and well-being. Indian immigrants brought along their rich culture, like their knowledge of ancient books called the Vedas. These books, written in a language called Sanskrit, are quite important in Indian culture. They talk about a lot of things, including medicine and yoga. As Indian folks made homes in the Caribbean, they kept following their traditional ways. They shared what they knew about medicine and spirituality, which they learned from the Vedas. So the Vedas didn't just carve the Indian folks' culture in the Caribbean, but also helped develop things like Ayurveda, a special kind of healthcare. This made the Caribbean's mix of cultures even more interesting. In the Caribbean, Indian languages like Hindi and Bhojpuri have changed the way people talk. Some words and phrases from these languages are now part of local ways of speaking, like Trinidadian Creole and Jamaican Patois. For example, in Trinidad you might hear words like chutney or roti, which originally come from Hindi, and in Jamaica, there are phrases like one coco full basket, which comes from Bhojpuri. This mix of Indian languages with Caribbean dialects shows how different cultures have influenced each other over time. It makes the way people talk in the Caribbean more diverse and interesting. Here's the thing, the Indian Caribbean community isn't just preserving traditions, they're innovating, evolving, and carving out a space for themselves in every aspect of Caribbean life. From bustling markets to thriving enterprises, these entrepreneurs are building a name for themselves in the business world. Indo-Caribbean business owners are coming together, supporting each other's ventures and fostering a culture of innovation and collaboration. They believe in collective growth and community empowerment. Whether it's in fashion, technology, hospitality, or any other sector, Indo-Caribbean entrepreneurs are breaking barriers, shattering stereotypes, and proving that with determination, creativity, and a strong sense of community, anything is possible. Here's to the Indo-Caribbean entrepreneurs who are shaping the future of the Caribbean. And this is the end of our video. If you liked hearing about the revolutionary impact of the Indians on Caribbean culture, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. That way we'll buck you a passenger seat on our upcoming video travels. In the meantime, check out these cool videos right here that we mentioned at the start.